tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 1st of July 2025. Price hike. Sri Lanka raises prices of 95-octane petrol and auto diesel. While the government announces a reduction in bus fares, private operators say no fare cuts are planned. Guilty as charged. Immigration and Immigration Controller General pleads guilty before the Supreme Court on contempt charges. Final sentencing set for July 24th. Illegal imports. Former Motor Traffic Commissioner General and 3 officials charged under the Anti-Corruption Act over the illegal import and registration of 177 vehicles. Surplus continues. Sri Lanka's external sector remains strong, recording another monthly current account surplus in May 2025. However, the year-on-year trade deficit has widened.
Cinec Campus Open Day, May masa 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
Javayata Balayak.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Aronayaka, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Lanka IOC and Sinopec announced their monthly fuel price revision for the month of July 2025. Accordingly, the prices of 95-octane petrol and auto diesel were increased from midnight yesterday. Following the fuel price revision, the National Transport Commission disclosed that the previously announced 2.5% reduction in bus fares, which was set to take effect today, has been postponed, and instead bus fares will only be reduced by 0.55% effective from the 4th of July. However, private bus operators said there will be no fare revision. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced its latest monthly fuel price revision last night, with the updated rates coming into effect from midnight yesterday. Accordingly, a litre of 92-octane petrol now retails at 305 rupees, following a 12 rupee increase. The price of auto diesel saw a 15 rupees hike, bringing the price to 289 rupees per litre. The price of kerosene rose by 7 rupees to 185 rupees per litre. However, the prices of 95-octane petrol and super diesel remained unchanged this month. Meanwhile, Lanka IOC and Sinopec also revised their fuel prices in line with Sipetco. This price increase comes days after Energy Minister Kumara Jaikodi's assurance that the country holds sufficient fuel reserves to meet demand for July and August. Trade unions affiliated with the fuel industry criticized the fuel price hike, citing recent trends in global oil prices. They pointed out that despite Brent crude prices climbing to around $77 per barrel on June 20th, they dropped significantly to approximately $67 by June 27th. This fluctuation, according to the unions, undermines the justification for a local price increase.
When tensions escalated in Iran and Israel, the prices of crude oil imported from the Middle East surged, but the price of crude oil being imported from other nations came down by 4%. This implies that the government cannot increase the fuel prices by any means. They had fuel stocks sufficient for the next 2 months. The government did not revise fuel prices last month. They should have done the same this month as well. However, they did not do that. Former Minister Kanchana Wijesekara often posted on his X account how the fuel prices change in accordance with the pricing formula. It has been 9 months since this government came to power, yet they have not revealed the pricing formula to the public.
Meanwhile, bus and school van associations disclosed that fares will remain unchanged despite the fuel price revision. Against this backdrop, the National Transport Commission announced the suspension of a previously planned 2.5% reduction in bus fares. Later this afternoon, the NTC stated that bus fares would be reduced by 0.55% effective from Friday, the 4th of July. Three-wheeler associations meanwhile vowed that fares will remain unchanged despite the fuel price revision. Meanwhile, Litro and Loves Gas announced that the prices of their domestic LP gas cylinders will remain unchanged this month.
Yadia, ලොව වැඩියෙන්ම අලෙවි වන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් ස්කූටරය අබාන්ස් ඔටෝ වෙතින්.
Wearing of seat belts is mandatory for all bus drivers from today onwards. The Minister of Transport announced that wearing of seat belts will be made mandatory for passengers of all vehicles travelling on expressways from the 1st of September.
Under the provisions of the Motor Traffic Act, it is mandatory for bus drivers on all roads to wear seat belts from today onwards. Furthermore, it will also be compulsory for rear seat passengers in light vehicles travelling on expressways to wear seat belts from the 1st of August. Additionally, it will also be mandatory for passengers in all seats in all vehicles travelling on the expressways to wear seat belts from September 1st onwards. Minister of Transport and Highways Bimal Ratnayaka participated in an inspection today at the Central Bus Stand in Colombo to observe the adherence of bus drivers to the newly enforced regulation.
A massive number of road accidents can be prevented by wearing seat belts. Additionally, a new regulation will be imposed to make the wearing of seat belts compulsory for rear seat passengers in light vehicles travelling on expressways. Certain parties raised concern that seat belts have not been installed, but we gave adequate time to install them. When you look at the modifications installed on some buses, it is surprising that they cannot get a seat belt installed. We have been informed that there are certain garages that refuse to install seat belts. We would like to urge them not to exchange people's lives for profit. If we receive any reports of such cases, we will take legal action against them. If a bus owner is unable to install a seat belt, they should look for an alternate business. We would like to urge everyone to support this measure.
Meanwhile, police conducted operations today to identify bus drivers who have not abided by the new regulation.
Meanwhile, Minister of Transport Bimal Ratnayaka said the Cabinet today approved the implementation of the nationwide online traffic fine payment system based on a pilot project introduced by the government. According to the Minister, the system is being introduced to ease the payment of traffic fines. Currently, fines can only be paid via telephone in the area from Kurunegala to Anuradhapura. According to the Minister, from this year onwards, fines will be payable from anywhere in the country.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Apico Next Gen. Make the leap to faster sleep.
The Parliamentary Committee of Inquiry investigating the alleged misconduct of suspended Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Thennakoon officially concluded the hearing of testimonies today. Former police spokesperson SSP Buddhika Manatunga was summoned before the committee today to provide a statement in relation to a press conference he convened when the suspended IGP was evading arrest, which negatively impacted the police department's reputation.
Suspended IGP Thennakoon was awaiting arrest after a warrant was issued by the Mathura Magistrates Court to apprehend him in relation to the shooting incident that occurred at the W15 hotel premises in Waligama. SSP Buddhika Manatunga, appearing before the committee, testified that he convened the press conference in question on the 6th of March 2025 after consulting acting IGP Priyantha Weerasurya. He further said he was instructed by the acting IGP to seek public assistance in locating suspended IGP Deshabandhu Thennakoon by holding a press conference. Subsequently, Additional Solicitor General Dilip Piris raised concerns regarding the timeline of incidents, highlighting that the order to arrest the suspended IGP was issued on the 27th of February, while the press conference was convened on the 6th of March. SSP Buddhika Manatunga responded, saying that the press conference was officially announced by him on the 6th of March. Chairman of the committee, Justice P.P. Surasena, questioned SSP Manatunga on when he was made aware of the disappearance of the suspended IGP, to which he replied that he was informed on the 1st or the 2nd of March. The Additional Solicitor General questioned SSP Manatunga whether he was informed by journalists that seeking public assistance in locating the suspended IGP could cause public criticism and negatively impact the reputation of the police department. Manatunga admitted that he was informed as such. Subsequently, the Additional Solicitor General requested permission to display a recording of the press conference in question before the Commission, to which suspended IGP Thennakoon's counsel Rasika Sanjeeva objected. Considering the arguments, the bench did not allow the displaying of the recording. Councillor Veera Vikrama then questioned Manatunga whether he holds a personal grudge against the suspended IGP, citing criticisms issued by Manatunga through Facebook directed at the suspended IGP. SSP Manatunga denied, saying that the suspended IGP has assisted him on many occasions in his professional career. Accordingly, the hearing hearing of testimonies officially concluded today, and written submissions of the respondent and the complainant were instructed to be submitted to the Secretary of the Committee before 3:30 p.m. on the 8th of July. The investigation report compiled by the committee is due to be presented to the Speaker of Parliament following the submissions.
In a significant step towards strengthening good governance and transparency in Sri Lanka, the government of Japan has extended a grant of $2.5 million to support a new anti-corruption initiative implemented by the United Nations Development Programme. The ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka and the resident representative of UNDP in Sri Lanka, in the presence of the Minister of Justice Harshana Nayakara, today officially launched the new project titled The Project for Promoting Prosecution of Corrupt Practices through the Establishment of Anti-Corruption Mechanism. The project aims to promote transparency, accountability and integrity in governance and business practices through effective and institutionalized preventative mechanisms in the public and investment promotion sectors. The Ministry of Fisheries disclosed that the essential technical equipment on the fishing vessel, believed to have collided with a merchant ship off the coast of Galle last week, was non-operational at the time of the incident. It was further revealed that the fishermen involved in the tragedy were not wearing life jackets and a significant number of them lacked life insurance coverage.
3 separate fishing vessels met with accidents over the weekend in the seas of Galle, Hambantota and Beruwala. 5 fishermen tragically lost their lives while 2 others remain missing. Meanwhile, the National Aquatic Resources Research and Development Agency has observed that the vessels had ventured out to sea despite official advisories, strongly causing fishermen to remain ashore due to hazardous conditions.
Fishermen were explicitly cautioned against setting out to sea given the prevailing adverse weather conditions. Specific warnings were also issued on the very days when these unfortunate incidents took place.
A press briefing was also convened at the Ministry of Fisheries today, bringing together relevant authorities to update the public on the recent maritime tragedies. During the briefing, it was disclosed that in the collision between a fishing vessel and a commercial ship in the waters of Galle, key technical systems on the fishing vessel, crucial for navigation and safety, had been deactivated at the time of the incident.
At the time of the incident, the fishing vessel's automatic identification system had been deactivated. Consequently, the skipper was unable to detect the approaching ship that was on a collision course. Our immediate priority is to identify the category of commercial vessels that collided with Dinesh 4. Once confirmed, we will initiate formal discussions regarding compensation with the manufacturer of the vessel and the authorities of its registered nation. Notably, both the fishing vessel's equipment and systems were non-operational at the time of impact. As of now, the identity of the commercial vessel involved in the collision remains undetermined. None of the fishermen involved in these recent maritime accidents were wearing life jackets at the time of the incidents. Alarmingly, it has become common practice for many to forego this essential safety gear even on days when the seas are turbulent and winds dangerously high. We have continuously urged all fishermen to obtain life insurance coverages as safeguard. Fortunately, those involved in the collision off the Mathura coast had complied with this advisory and were insured. However, in the tragic incident near Hambantota, neither the deceased fishermen nor the one still reported missing possessed any form of life insurance. Similarly, the fishermen who set out from Beruwala had also failed to obtain insurance coverage. As a consequence, their families will not be eligible to receive compensation.
Former Immigration and Immigration Controller General Harsha Ilukpitiya today unconditionally pled guilty before the Supreme Court to charges of contempt of court for failing to implement an interim injunction related to the e-visa issuance process. The 3-judge bench announced that Ilukpitiya's sentence will be announced on the 24th of July.
MP Rauf Hakim and former MPs Patali Champika Ranawaka and M.A. Sumantiran filed a fundamental rights petition before the Supreme Court seeking to nullify a cabinet decision of the previous government to transfer the e-visa issuance process to 2 private companies. On August 2, 2024, the Supreme Court issued an interim injunction suspending the cabinet decision and allowing the petition to be heard. A second injunction instructed the Controller General of the Immigration and Emigration to continue issuing e-visas under the previous system. However, then Controller General Harsha Ilukpitiya failed to comply and was subsequently remanded on September 25th last year for contempt of court. The case was taken up today before a three-judge bench comprising Justices Yasantha Kodagoda, Janaka De Silva and Arjuna Obesekara. President's Counsel Salia Pires, representing Ilukpitiya, informed the court that his client would withdraw his earlier claim of innocence and plead guilty. Making a statement after the plea, Ilukpitiya said upon receiving the court order, he sought advice from the Attorney General and was instructed to seek further clarification from the court. He added that then Secretary to the Ministry, Viyani Gunathilaka, directed him, both verbally and in writing, not to implement the order until further guidance was received from the Attorney General. Petitioner Rauf Hakim, an attorney at law, argued that the failure to enforce the injunction had severely harmed the national economy. Partali Champika Ranawaka also stated that the previously estimated loss of 331 million rupees had increased due to non-compliance with the court order. Ilukpitiya's counsel requested leniency, noting that his client found himself in a difficult position and had now admitted guilt. The bench announced that the verdict on the respondent's punishment will be delivered on the July 24th. Meanwhile, the case against former Sri Lankan Airlines chairman Nishantha Wickramasinghe, arrested and remanded on 3 counts of corruption, was taken up at the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today. Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali denied his bail application and ordered that he remain in remand custody until July 15th. She also instructed investigating officers to expedite inquiries and report progress by that date. Meanwhile, former Motor Traffic Commissioner General Nishantha Anuruddha Veerasinghe and 3 officials from the Department of Motor Traffic, including retired Assistant IT Director Priyantha Bandara Eriyagama and Clerk Attaragama Gedara Dhammika Niroshan, were arrested today by the Bribery Commission. They are accused of issuing license plates for a Toyota Jeep illegally registered without customs clearance, an offence under the Anti-Corruption Act. Presently the suspect before Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali Jayatunga, investigators revealed that 177 vehicles had been illegally imported and registered. The magistrate ordered the suspects to be remanded until July 8th.
Leader of the Sarvajanabalia parliamentarian Dilip Jayawira claims the current government's model of governance is completely unsuitable for achieving Sri Lanka's economic development goals. He made these remarks while attending the inauguration of the Sarvajanabalia Matale this afternoon.
The new Sabha was established in Matale today as part of the Sarvajanabalia initiative under the patronage of party leader parliamentarian Dilip Jayawira.
Over 60% of state revenue is being spent on debt repayments and interest. To put that into perspective, if your household income is 1,000 or 10,000 rupees and 60% of it goes towards paying off loans, you're left with just 40% to meet all your daily needs. That is exactly what's happening on a national scale. Without your knowledge and without you realizing it, your quality of life has steadily declined. Much is said about a 76-year curse, but personally, I don't believe in that. If you examine the country's political history closely, you'll see that both good and bad have been done over the years. However, the current JVP-led government bears direct responsibility for at least 50 years of that so-called curse. They are still responsible even while in government. This current model of governance is not suitable. If we ever had a chance to hope for a better future under the previous system, that hope is gone under this one. A country cannot function this way. We will be in serious trouble by 2028. That is a certainty. This government may not be solely responsible, but the people supported them because of the promises they made. Now those hopes are fast fading.
Gini Lokug, a long-serving member of parliament and former cabinet minister, passed away last night. The veteran politician passed away at the age of 82 while receiving treatment at a private hospital. His body now lies in state at his Piliyandala residence with final rites scheduled for Thursday.
Veteran statesman Gini Lokug, former cabinet minister and long-serving member of parliament, passed away last night at the age of 82 while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. Born in 1943, Lokug's political journey began in 1960 when he aligned himself with the United National Party. He first entered parliament in 1983, representing the Kasbava constituency. Lokug held the position of Minister of Tourism twice, first in 1989 and again in 2002. In a major political move in 2006, he crossed over to join the government led by then-President Mahinda Rajapaksa. From then on, Lokug held a number of significant ministerial portfolios and remained an active figure in both government and opposition benches over the years. His remains were brought this afternoon to his residence in Mavit Therapiliandala, where they will lie in state for public viewing until Thursday. Final rites are scheduled to take place at the Dolekanatta Public Cemetery on Thursday afternoon. This morning, prior to the remains being taken home, politicians and others gathered at the private funeral parlour to pay their final respects.
Welcome back. In your business news, Sri Lanka's external sector continued to strengthen in May 2025, maintaining a monthly surplus in the current account. The improvement was primarily driven by increased inflows from worker remittances.
According to the latest report by the central bank, earnings from merchandise exports rose by 2.3% year-on-year, reaching $1.03 billion in May 2025. Meanwhile, expenditure on merchandise imports increased by 7.3% year-on-year to $1.5 billion. As a result, the merchandise trade deficit widened compared to May 2024, recording a deficit of $473 million, reflecting a larger year-on-year growth in imports relative to exports. However, the trade deficit narrowed when compared to April 2025. Tourism earnings in May 2025 were estimated at $164 million, bringing cumulative earnings from January to May 2025 to $1.5 billion. Worker remittances provided the largest contribution, with a year-on-year growth of 17.9% in May 2025. Cumulative remittances amounted to $3.1 billion during the period from January to May. Gross official reserves stood at $6.3 billion at the end of May 2025. This figure includes the swap facility with the People's Bank of China. Meanwhile, the current account surplus stood at $190.6 million in May and recorded a cumulative surplus of $1.3 billion from January to May 2025, a 37.5% increase compared to the same period last year. As of the end of May 2025, the Sri Lankan rupee had depreciated by 2.5% against the US dollar on a year-to-date basis.
A high-level delegation of chief executive officers from the Confederation of Indian Industry met with Prime Minister Dr. Haranya Amarasuriya yesterday to discuss the expansion of trade and investment opportunities across key sectors. The areas of focus included technology, manufacturing, education, innovation, entrepreneurship, agriculture, energy and tourism. According to the Prime Minister's office, Prime Minister Dr. Haranya Amarasuriya emphasized the importance of inclusive and equitable investment strategies that promote youth empowerment, support women entrepreneurs and strengthen the small and medium enterprise sector. Meanwhile, the Indian delegation reaffirmed the robust and evolving economic ties between the two nations, highlighting the positive momentum generated by the recent state visit of the President of Sri Lanka to India. Reversing from the positive sentiment of the previous day, the Colombo bourse faced selling pressure as investors opted to book profits during the trading session. In the early hours of trading, investors booked profits, with the main index experiencing a sharp decline but gradually recovered. However, the ASPI ultimately failed to close in positive territory, halting at 17,997 points, down 30 points. Banking counters like HNB and NDB exerted negative pressure on the index, along with CDB, CT, HR and CARS. Retail and high net worth investor participation remained strong, with turnover reaching 7.6 billion, reflecting a 55% increase from the monthly average. Notably, 1.7% of LOFC's stake was traded through an off-board transaction at 6 rupees per share, generating a turnover of 3.3 billion rupees. The diversified financial sector was the top contributor to today's turnover, accounting for a share of 55%. Foreign investors remain net sellers with a net outflow of 3.4 billion. That's all for tonight from Fest at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.